Miren, el dinero es
Money is an economic good. It is a scarce economic good, and all of the economic laws we have studied during this course, particularly the law of marginal utility, are applicable to it. Nevertheless, up to now, most economic theorists have thought money required a special approach, and they have developed an entire discipline based on the view that money must be studied in aggregate, holistic terms. They consider the supply of money and the demand for money in overall terms, as if a hypothetical general price level existed. According to Mises, they place themselves in the pre-scientific stage of economics, in which the decisions and actions of human beings were always viewed in aggregate terms. In other words, all of the gold, or all of the iron, or all of the bread, or all of the water. In the pre-scientific stage, before the marginal revolution, in which the discovery was made that the value of goods is determined by their marginal utility. Because when human beings act, we do not make decisions based on aggregates of goods, all or nothing, but in terms of 1 unit more or 1 unit less, in terms of incremental or marginal units of a good. So there are a legion of economists who, up to now, have believed marginal utility could not be applied to money, and thus they have wished to develop the economic theory of money in aggregate, holistic terms, without applying marginal utility. And they have given rise to a number of disciplines with macroeconomics at the top, which is why we call it macro. And these disciplines exclude from analysis individual human decisions and the application of marginal utility to money. In contrast, our theory of money will be fully contained within the marginal theory of subjective value. And we will always be able to trace our comments about money back to individual human actions. This methodological difference as to the study of money is a gulf that separates our approach from that most of my colleagues have taken up to now. At this point, macroeconomics has shattered into 1,000 pieces. It is now in crisis and is incapable of explaining the most obvious processes in the world around us, particularly the severe financial crisis and the economic recession. Macroeconomists cannot account for them, because their method and analytical viewpoint eliminate the application of individual human action, the subjectivist approach, and the theory of marginal utility to money. However, I repeat, in our study of money, we are going to apply to it the same laws we have examined in this course. In any case, we must recognize that, though we will apply the same laws and the same theory of prices, money has a number of special characteristics, and we will focus on them. We have defined money as any commonly and generally accepted medium of exchange, and Mises starts off by defining a medium of exchange. Media of exchange are those goods we human beings acquire not for direct consumption, not for use in our own productive activities, nor in those of others, but with a plan to exchange them for other commodities, other goods, other factors of production which we do plan to consume or to use in our own production processes. Note that what gives a medium of exchange its theoretical nature, or if you prefer, its praxeological nature, is the reason a human being demands it. A medium of exchange is not demanded with the idea of eating it, nor of using it as a factor of production, but with the idea of keeping it, to exchange it for something else in the future. So, according to Mises, what are the reasons we human beings might demand a medium of exchange? Well, at this point, these reasons should be obvious to all. Basically, first, demanding a medium of exchange makes it much easier for us to find a seller of what we need. In other words, with a medium of exchange, we resolve the problem of the double coincidence of wants. This is what Keynesians call the transaction motive. Second, media of exchange are demanded because many commodities are perishable. And if we buy merchandise that is going to go bad, it is much more efficient, in entrepreneurial and dynamic terms, to demand a medium of exchange which is immutable than to have something that is going to change, lose its properties, go to waste or spoil. But there is a third reason we demand media of exchange, and that is to cope with the ineradicable uncertainty which surrounds every human action. We have already said that the future is radically uncertain, because it depends on knowledge or information that has not yet been generated from the entrepreneurial standpoint. Because our human nature is especially entrepreneurial and creative, the future is unavoidably uncertain. Anyone who rebels against the uncertainty of the future because it makes him feel insecure or dizzy is rebelling against his very nature, that of his very being or self, as it was created, and as it is. Because we change our minds, and it is possible for us to discover new things and new ends in the future, we do not know what the future will be like, for not even we ourselves know what we will want, what we will desire, the means we will discover, the means we will create. So remember, if we do not know what the future will be like, how can we face the ineradicable uncertainty of it? Well, as we said, human beings cannot escape uncertainty, but we have two weapons to help us cope with it. The first is entrepreneurship itself, in the sense that we tend to discover entrepreneurially what is in our best interest, and to achieve what we desire. And the second weapon we said helps us to face uncertainty is institutions, those pattern behaviors. But of all of them, the most vital institution which permits us to cope with the uncertainty of the future is money. For if the future is uncertain and we have monetary units, we have all of our options open, so to speak, to allow us to adapt our future behavior to the circumstances as they evolve. If I lack money, and I have already burdened myself with debts, and I have bought a house here and a good there, and such a company, and the future is uncertain, and tastes change radically, maybe that house is worth nothing, but I cannot get out of owning it. Maybe those goods are not useful in the way I had planned, and it is too late to do anything about it. If, meanwhile, I keep monetary units, since they make it possible to acquire what I need, as they are a commonly and generally accepted medium of exchange, even if I do not know what I will desire tomorrow, if I have liquidity, I will be able to react in time tomorrow, appropriately, in the best way possible. Therefore, money is the institution that permits human beings to cope with the ineradicable uncertainty of the future in the most efficient way possible. And thus, I would now like you to see the close relationship between the institution of money and entrepreneurship. Creative entrepreneurship is what makes the future uncertain, and we face the uncertainty of the future precisely through the institution of money, which, incidentally, emerged as a result of the creative entrepreneurial brilliance of a small few, who discovered before anyone else that they better achieved their ends if they demanded a medium of exchange. These few became the vanguard of civilization, and their behavior was copied in successive waves by all those who followed, thus giving rise to gold as the quintessential medium of exchange. Gold permits us to face the uncertainty of the future. And since now there is a lot of uncertainty, what is happening, Vargas? The demand for gold has increased substantially, and therefore so has the price of gold. Also, this typically occurs in an economic scenario when there is a collapse of confidence in these disgusting little pieces of paper, which you, nevertheless, are so fond of, and which I just use as toilet paper. So, to put it simply, and off the record, these fiduciary media are for wiping your butt, or you can rip them up. It is shameful that we have to depend on them. It is incredible that well into the 21st century we are still buying into the myth of fiduciary media. But of this we will talk right away.